Hey there and welcome. I am Selena Beasley with About Face, and I'm a makeup coach. I teach creative entrepreneurs how to do their makeup like a professional so they can show up as the face of their brand, looking the part of their success. And today I am sharing a topic that is fresh on my heart. This is an attempt to open a conversation about the psychology of makeup. So I have had several conversations lately with women specifically about their makeup routines. That's my favorite question to ask. So tell me about your makeup routine. I love asking this question because every answer is different and unique, and every person has a unique way of expressing themselves when it comes to makeup. But I have noticed a trend. Generally speaking, people are not neutral on the topic of makeup. It's either I don't wear it, I don't like it, I don't like how it feels, I don't feel like I look authentic. I hear that a lot. I feel like it just doesn't feel like me. Or people are very much for it and they're passionate about it for a specific reason. And so if you have not tracked with me for any length of time, this may come as a surprise, but for those of you that know me will be like, oh, of course. I am a psychology nerd. I minored in psychology in college. I am a sucker for all things personality theories and the Enneagram, and I'm like, yes, okay, let's talk about this. This is fascinating to me. So I have been, on the heels of these conversations that I've been having about makeup, I've been digging in on my own in my psychology enthusiasm. I'm not a psychologist, but I am an enthusiast. I've been digging in on my own, like, okay, what is the psychology behind this? Because when I am working with a client, I want to send the message, if nothing else, that applying makeup is not intended to turn you into something that you're not. It's not intended to hide and conceal and create a barrier between you and the world. In fact, the exact opposite is true. It is intended, when used right, when applied well, it is intended to uncover or recover the beauty that you already are, to remove any layers of insecurity or between you and the people that you're trying to reach, so that you can attract them to your message. Your makeup should attract to your message, not to your sexuality, not to your appeal, but it should attract to your message. And so whenever I am teaching, instructing, coaching, I'm always bringing it back to that of, why would you choose that shade? Because it's going to draw attention to your message. Just say it with me. Draw attention to your message. Okay, I just want to make sure, for those that don't know me well enough and haven't tracked with me long enough to know that that is my heart, my mission, my motivation. I preface this live discussion with, I need you to trust me on this one, because this can be a more sensitive, vulnerable topic when we are going into the discussion of the psychology of makeup. So the psychology of makeup, specifically when it comes to camera and connecting with our audience through media, be that social media or on virtual platforms like Zoom, or being a keynote speaker on a live recorded event. So I'm speaking specifically to, my specialty is makeup for camera. So the camera, we have to contend with certain factors that we don't have to contend with maybe face to face. The camera, whether we like it or not, tends to make us look more washed out, tired, dull, heavier than we want to look. That has all to do with focal length, lens distortion, camera angle, lighting. Those are just factors that you have to contend with whenever you are showing up as the face of your brand online and you want to have a strong and healthy online presence. But why does this matter so much to your business growth? And so I want to speak to the psychology of showing up as the face of your brand, particularly through the eyes of your viewers. And I want go with me for a minute, nerd out with me for a minute. Let me have my nerd rant, and then you can tell me, you know what, why don't you go back to talking about colors? We like that. Let me nerd rant for a minute. So I've been mulling over how the brain processes a first impression. And by first impression, I mean as a scroll on Instagram and seeing your photo or watching your reel for the first time. What goes on? What's happening in the psychology of the viewer that they are forming an opinion and an impression of you, of me, in literally a 1/10 of a second. A person can look at a still photo. This is a marvel at how the brain works. But I'm not a psychologist. So the brain is when you meet somebody for the first time, or you see a photograph of somebody, your brain immediately begins to process the visual it's looking for 4 things. Okay. Let me nerd it out. Okay. So it's processing the shape of your face. The brain is it's trying to organize what it's seeing. So it's processing the shape of your face. It's looking for symmetry, balance, proportion. And in that, it is trying to sort. We have a very basic, instinctual need to assess whether the person in front of us is a threat or an ally. Okay? So without even we're not consciously doing this, okay? But we're sizing up the shape of the person's face, looking for symmetry and proportion, because that signals to the brain, okay, this is an ally. We are also looking for what's called facial fitness. So this goes back to primal instinct. And this is not fitness I'm not talking about heavy or thin. I'm talking about proportion. If something looks out of proportion, the brain reads it as a disfigure and reads it as a threat. Familiarity. So again, this is the brain is doing this in a 1/10 of a second. The brain is going, okay, trying to assess the shape of the face. I'm trying to gauge whether this is a threat or an ally. The brain looks for familiarity. We are hardwired as human beings to gravitate toward that which is familiar, because that signals safety. It signals comfort. And so it's looking for, okay, she reminds me of, and this element is a little bit out of our control, because if you're looking at me and I look like the stepsister that you couldn't stand, and the way that she talked and the inflection in her voice and her face just drives, I don't know what it is, but there is something that I can't put my finger on, but it just gets on my last nerve. That's just the brain's need to sort of categorize and organize what it's seeing. And so it's looking for familiarity. And finally, it's looking for emotional cue. You're giving an impression to your viewer that you may not intend to give. You're like, no, actually, I'm actually pretty sweet and I'm pretty deferring, and yet I just look angry. But the brain is categorizing, okay? So it's running through all of these databases, if you will, this facial recognition software that's just sort of hardwired into all of us to determine, is this a threat? Can I trust this person? And so again, this takes all of a fraction of a second, okay? Whether we like it or not, human beings are hardwired to size one another up and gauge attractiveness. By attractiveness, I'm not referring to sex appeal when I'm talking about attractiveness. I'm referring to what the brain deems as attractive. It translates as intelligent, capable, likable, trustworthy, which sounds an awful lot like what we as business owners, brand builders, creative entrepreneurs are working so hard to build across all of these platforms that we show up to every single day. So this, again, this has nothing to do with sex appeal. This has everything to do with the human innate instinct, primal need to size up whether something or someone is a threat or an ally. We make snap judgments about the person because the brain cannot help it. It has to organize what it's seeing. Now, what does this have to do with makeup? So I teach my clients that you use makeup as a vehicle to guide the eye of the viewer to your advantage. Not just to your advantage, but to their advantage. So the psychology of makeup is all to do with impression management. So when you are showing up as the face of your brand, you're serving your audience by allowing them to feel more deeply connected to you. Your audience wants to see your face. Your stock photos are beautiful. Your Canva graphics are gorgeous. Even your captions are, they're so thoughtfully crafted. But your audience, they want to see you. They want to the camera, just naturally the nature of the camera, it creates a barrier between us, a physical barrier, but it also triggers in the mind that this person that I'm listening to, this person that has some authority or virtual influence in my life is other than me. When you show up on camera, when you show up as the face of your brand, you have influence with your audience, a powerful influence. So when you show up as the face of your brand, having considered and mastered the skill of what I call impression management, you are effectively sending your leads, your prospects, your audience the following message. And I'm going to read this to you because when you consider what your audience is seeing and you master your makeup for the purpose of impression management, this is what you're saying, virtually what you're saying. I realize that you are involuntarily forming an opinion of me in this moment. I humbly accept that you can't help but rank my attractiveness to determine whether I am smart, competent, and sincere. So, I am doing you a service of removing any barriers of suspicion between us by tailoring my appearance in a way that satisfies your instinctive need for balance, familiarity, and emotional connection. I have done the work of making sure that my intelligence, capability, likability, and trustworthiness isn't undermined by an impression that I don't mean to make. The potential impact of my brand's message to transform your reality is worth the effort. You are worth the effort. The time, the skill, the intention it takes to guide your eye, to signal to your brain that this connection is and will be to your advantage is worth the effort. I explain the world to myself by writing things down. So I wrote that this morning and I was like, this kind of sounds a little bit like a manifesto. And here's the thing. Impression management, when you're in business, impression management is worth the effort. It is worth the effort in, yes, it is going to benefit your personal confidence. It's going to benefit your brand image. It's going to strengthen your online presence, which we want a healthy online presence. But it is also one of the most humble and thoughtful and intentional things that you can do for your audience. So this seems like a lot of pressure to put on a lipstick or a contour, okay? But this is true, okay? The shape of your face, the shape of your eyebrows, how the corners of your mouth, the colors that you choose. Your viewers are working, their brains are working overtime to try to make sense of this. So are you sending the message? Is the message that you want to send the message that they are receiving? And by mastering your on-screen look, by learning how to do your makeup in a way that creates symmetry and proportion and dimension and interest and helps you go from looking tired, washed out, and dull on camera to looking vibrant and excited to be talking, to be delivering your content, your makeup should magnetically attract your audience to your message. I started this whole thing off by saying just that. So this is like, it's what I call low-hanging fruit. Like, this is an easy and effective way to remove any subconscious barrier of suspicion that your viewers may have of you, to no fault of your own or their own, because it's just the way the brain is wired. To no fault of anybody's at all, the best thing that you can do is at that threshold, within that 10th of a second, to reinforce that know, like, and trust factor is to leverage makeup as a tool and as a skill to master your on-screen look so that you can effectively, confidently show up as the face of your brand and serve your audience in a really big way. Psychology nerd rant over.